Hello, viewers. I'm Yashwendra Singh, Executive Editor of ETCIO and the moderator of this fireside chat on building digital resiliency. Building business resilience has never been more important for organizations. The unprecedented shift to remote working models in 2020 has demonstrated the importance of business resiliency strategies that empower and secure an increasingly digital workforce. The CIO's role in digital transformation and in building resiliency is now more significant than ever. And perhaps they are the key to the company's agility from an employee perspective as well as from a market and customer perspective. In this chat today, we have with us two enterprise technology experts who will throw more light on how to build digital resiliency. Please welcome Mr. Ashish Desai, CIO Grasim, and Mr. Kunal Kaul, Director Enterprise Business, Cisco India. Welcome, gentlemen. I'll set the board rolling with Mr. Ashish Desai. Ashish, sir, during the pandemic, enterprises quickly moved to ensure workforce productivity with secure, scalable solutions. 6 months down the line, what enhancements are needed to their initial approach to work from home?
Kudos to the entire IT community, the way in which they've invested well in advance on various technologies. It has really paid off during the pandemic. But this is something which is immediate action or reaction, I would say. If you have to sustain in this routine, work from home is going to be kind of a new routine for various companies now. 25% of the employees, even in the manufacturing segment, is going to work from home as a routine activity. So the organizations need to invest heavily in the technologies. They need to ensure that they have a proper information security structure in place. They need to ensure that the employees connect very properly from the various applications. Even their applications should be available anytime from anywhere. So people need to think, or IT managers need to think from various aspects, like how can they provide the secured application for various areas. Also, the security is going to be the paramount importance for the organizations going forward. How do they ensure that the desktops or the laptops which is being used by the employees are secured enough? How they ensure that the proxies are being leveraged using some kind of a cloud. So earlier employees used to work from office, wherein we have an Active Directory from organizations infrastructure. Now the things are going to get changed. So people will have to invest heavily in security, as well as cloud is something which is going to be the future for the organizations.
Kunal, your thoughts here? Like Mr. Desai just said, this could be the new normal going forward. And he also said huge amounts of investments are needed. Your thoughts here also because, we see that budgets are going to get curtailed going forward. So what's the way ahead for CISOs and CIOs?
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I think Ashish made some very, very pertinent points, and ultimately budgets are going to be critically important. And what was being called as the future of work is no longer the future of work. It is work as we do it today. It's not the future anymore. I think firstly, one has to understand that you cannot sort of burn the candle on both the ends, in the sense that you can't expect organizations to invest heavily in remote working or work from home infrastructure and also continue to invest in office infrastructure as well. I think there will have to be a balance that companies will have to find in terms of defining their flexible working or work from anywhere strategy, which means that in the future, users or employees could be working from home, they could be working from a coffee shop, they could be working from satellite offices, and maybe once in a while they will come to a large branch office or the central corporate office. The systems, the technology that they are using has to be sort of provisioned or programmed in such a way that it gives the users this flexibility to be able to have this work from home facility depending on what they choose to do. That's number one. Number two is the fact that when we designed IT systems in the traditional sense, the three dimensions of how an IT setup is designed, the workload, which is the application, the workplace, which is the infrastructure around, and the workforce, which is the user, was sort of designed in such a way that we designed the application, we designed the infrastructure, and users had to align to it. Now, I think what has happened is it has turned upside down. Now the application and the infrastructure or the workload and the workplace has to align to what the user needs. The user has become front and center of every IT strategy. And I think that's what we are hearing from our customers. And that's how we are also designing our systems, where everything that we do has to be user centric, whether it is the workplace and the definition of the workplace, whatever it might be, or whether it is the workload and how the users are consuming that workload from an experience perspective or from a security perspective as well. So I think those are certain aspects of how we are seeing work from anywhere or flexible working evolving. But the one fundamental sort of expectation that everybody has is the fact that regardless of where you are working from, you need to be able to have a consistent experience as far as your collaboration platform is concerned and as far as your overall application experience is concerned. So that democratization of experience, the ability to access applications and collaborate from any device, with one touch of a button is going to be critically important in making any work from home infrastructure successful, I think.
Sure, Kunal. So the user has basically become the center of the universe. Ashish sir, moving ahead, as organizations grapple to transition to the next normal, including how to facilitate a safe return to office and power new business models, which trusted workplace solutions can help them in this endeavor? How can technology leaders enhance customer and employee experience in the new normal?
So I would say there is no one single answer to this particular solution, because collaboration or something for customers will have it will vary from customers and the organization's need. I think people will have to invest in the hybrid solutions. People will have to ensure that they leverage on their current applications, whatever they invested in. Also, I would say that this will become the new norm. So for us, we have started leveraging on platforms like WebEx and Teams for various customer related engagements. So we have conducted more than 12 different customer sessions in last 6 months, wherein we have given the education to customer over Teams and WebEx. Also, we have launched our loyalty program using the digital platform. And lastly, we have done an integration of one of our business, wherein we have done the large mega scale customer event using the WebEx platform. So I think it will depend on to the customers or the organization's policy and the solutions that they've deployed. But I would say that yes, it will be things like Microsoft Teams. It would be things like, let's say, Cisco WebEx. For us, we have invested in both. We have also started leveraging on some of the technologies from Cisco, even at the plant level. So I would say it will depend on the organization's, strategy.
Kunal, in addition to collaboration platforms, what else comes to your mind that will enhance customer and employee experience in the new normal?
Yeah, no, look, you spoke about return to office. I think return to office, or whenever we start going back to offices, hopefully that starts happening sometime soon. It's not going to be the same. I mean, life at work is not going to be the same, at least for as long as we are still battling this pandemic. I think we are talking to our customers and we are helping our customers in terms of leverage technology to make the workplace as safe as possible for employees to come back in the current circumstances. One of the things that we are focusing on in a very big way is to use our wireless infrastructure and basically to build a layer of analytics behind the wireless infrastructure to be able to do things like density mapping of people inside an offices depending on how their wireless devices are connected, and that allows the administrators, or that allows the facilities management people to basically maintain social distancing. So if there are more than a certain number of people who are congregating or getting into a room, it will throw some sort of an alert, and somebody can go and say that, look, this is not as per the social distancing norms, and so maybe people need to disperse or something like that. So those kind of things will become very, very important. Secondly, I think somebody gets detected that this person has been infected, and you need to then do contact tracing. And this applies to both offices as well as factories and shop floors as well, right? I mean, you need to do some kind of contact tracing to make sure that you don't shut down the entire campus or the entire building or the entire facility, because that was what was happening a few months back. But you only do a contact tracing map of where that person has visited in the last whatever 24 or 48 hours. And so you can isolate only those spots because you have a digital map of that, and the rest of the factory or the office or the building can keep on functioning. So those kind of things are also becoming very, very critically important for us when we talk about return to office. And thirdly, I think when we talk about collaboration platforms, when we talk about devices which users are going to use to communicate and collaborate, we are trying to make them as cognitive as possible. Things like speech recognition and all, to start a meeting, to basically give various commands for that device to do whatever they're supposed to do without having to touch an actual surface. Those kind of things are also becoming very, very prevalent, right? Because that minimizes the contact between the humans and the devices that are being used. So I think these are the 2 or 3 areas where we are seeing a lot of questions that customers are asking us, and we are also building solutions leveraging our existing networking infrastructure or our existing collaboration infrastructure to deliver some of these outcomes.
I agree, Yashwinder. So maybe let me add a few points from employee perspective point of view. It was rightly mentioned by Kunal. Yes, the organizations are now thinking of leveraging on artificial intelligence, right? How, and in fact, for us as well, we have started certain things in few of our plants wherein we are trying to say that how can we eliminate the use of, or how can we leverage on the technology for touchless attendance system? How can we ensure that we go for the paperless movement in case of logistics? How do we use the artificial intelligence to predict or in advance that this person is he COVID infected or not? And as rightly mentioned by Kunal, how can we ensure that the social distancing norms are being well managed using the technology? So for us, we had done some pilot in one of our sites. Happy to share that we have connected more than 150 different cameras in more than in one of our plant, and trying to see that yes, how can we use this for improving safety of workers, as well as how can we move towards a touchless attendance system. So I think this is what also people are now thinking of leveraging on technology for doing the things which we were not doing in the past, are like, how can I book my seats in well in advance? So seat booking, office booking, conference room booking is something which is going to be a use case for future as well. I think this is something which the organizations can think from the employee perspective.
Ashish sir, going forward, what best practices should CIOs adopt to ensure business growth in the new normal?
I think CIOs should focus more on the business outcome based projects rather than the technology led project only. Should work closely with the business or the functions, and see that how technology is going to make the difference to the organization, be it in terms of a top line or bottom line. Technology is something which is going to be the enabler for the company, but ultimately the focus should be how can we improve top line, how can we reduce how can we improve bottom line, how can we focus more on the cash. I think company or CIOs should talk the business language and should try to focus on the business outcomes rather than the technology. Yes, technology is something is going to be helping the organization to achieve what the aspirations are, but focus more on the business outcome and do the partnership with the business. That will help CIOs to move to the ladder wherein they can also get into the business function role.
What about multi-cloud? How critical would be multi-cloud be for enterprises in aligning with the new normal? And what's the best approach for IT leaders to maximize the power of multi-cloud? Kunal?
Well, multi-cloud is absolutely the way to go for almost every single customer that I have spoken to in the last 6 months. So everybody is looking at public cloud in one way or another. Everybody will have a sort of not a single public cloud strategy, but at least 1, 2, or 3 different public cloud providers. And most customers and CIOs that I've spoken to say that they will never 100% be on the cloud. So it's always going to be a combination of what is on cloud and then what they're hosting on-prem, and how can they sort of manage and orchestrate that. So that is definitely a discussion where the IT strategy for the future from a multi-cloud perspective is evolving. And I think Cisco plays a very, very important role in building that multi-cloud strategy in 2 or 3 areas. Number one, I think the network that you are running to basically get your applications to the multi-cloud, whether or to whichever cloud you're looking at, whether it is from your corporate office, whether it is from your branch office, or whether it is from the users who are accessing these applications directly through the internet, it still has to basically ride on an application and a multi-cloud aware wide area network. So that is something, where Cisco wide area networks, our SD-WAN networks, become sort of the on ramp to the multi-cloud environment. That's number one. Number two, when you are running these applications on-prem, there are certain application policies and profiles and various other aspects of how these applications are sort of defined or segmented on the network that you're running in an on-prem environment. When you take those applications to a cloud environment, it is also critically important for you to be able to apply those policies, apply those principles that you had in an on-prem scenario seamlessly in the multi-cloud environment, in a way in which you can have a consistent policy across different cloud providers and your on-prem setup, so that you have some sort of a single pane of glass across the entire environment. So that is again a very, very key area where we play a role. Thirdly, I think orchestrating the whole on-prem versus multi-cloud scenario from an application and workload optimization and management standpoint, from an orchestration standpoint, is another key area where we play a very, very important role. And lastly, I think from an application performance monitoring perspective, one of the most important things that customers need to do when they are moving applications to a multi-cloud environment is to create some sort of a performance baseline when the application is running on-prem. And then when that application moves to multi-cloud, you know that this application is either performing better, hopefully not worse, or at the same baseline that the application was running in the on-prem environment, so that you know that your multi-cloud journey is successful and moving in the right direction. And you have to be continuously sort of able to monitor that. So all of those things coming together is becoming a very, very critical aspect of how you are enabling your IT, your applications, or your overall sort of way of doing business in a multi-cloud world.
Sure, Kunal. Sir, are you also leveraging multi-cloud, or do you have plans in the pipeline to do so? Your thoughts on multi-cloud going forward?
No, I completely agree with what Kunal mentioned.
Kunal, final thoughts, final comments from you. What best practices come to your mind that you want to recommend to technology leaders?
Well, I'm not a CIO, so I will only share my feedback and my point of view, because when we go to meet our customers, we try to learn from our CIOs. But I would say a couple of things. Number one, I think this is an absolutely incredible opportunity to transform whichever business you are in, whichever industry sector that you are in, for the future, to gain significant competitive advantage depending on how fast you can move. I know that we are in a crisis. I know that a lot of things which are happening right now are because CIOs are in a way forced to do a lot of things because of the kind of lockdown that we have seen in the last 6 months. But all of that notwithstanding, I think this has also given us an absolutely amazing opportunity to leverage technology, to leverage digital, to transform the business for a very, very long time. And I think the ones who see this as an opportunity to transform and move fast are the ones who will eventually end up gaining significant competitive advantages in their respective business domains. That's number one. Number two, I think it's while we talk about technology, while we talk about technology transformation and digital transformation, I think that cannot happen, or that can never be successful without an equal and proportionate cultural evolution and cultural transformation as well. I think it's very important for us to keep the human aspect in mind. I think it's very important for us to keep the cultural aspect in mind. It's not going to be easy for people to change and transform. There is going to be many different scenarios that we will see unfolding depending on the kind of sector that we are looking at, and depending on the kind of cultural legacy and history that that company or that sector will have. So I think while on one hand the technology transformation is critical, but I think for that to be successful, an equal amount of cultural transformation also has to be looked at very, very seriously for this to be successful in its entirety, and for the business outcomes that we are talking about to be achieved as quickly as possible. So that's what I would say.
So gentlemen, that's all we have time for. To sum up the discussion, resilient IT organizations that have a digital mindset have been in a better position to deal with challenges, especially in the first half of 2020. Going forward, CIOs will have to build innovative digital foundations if they haven't already. They will have to accelerate the pace of innovation and work toward that future. Thank you, gentlemen, for those wonderful and valuable insights. And thank you, viewers, for watching this session. Stay safe and take care.